Great.
There
Thanks,
we
Lorna. So as I was saying, yes, I'm the funding officer for Scottish Borders and the appropriate first point of contact for any funding ideas that you have to any of our programmes. I work for the South Scotland team, which covers the three Ayrshires and D&G, as well as the Borders. So today I'm going to focus on our two new funding programmes that launched in November. Community Action and Fairer Life Chances. And for those of you that remember our old programs, these build on what used to be called our community-led program and Improving Lives funding programs. And broadly speaking, Community Action is for action at the level of communities at slightly lighter touch interventions to improve health and well-being, whereas Fairer Life Chances is more about focusing on the individual's circumstances of individuals and working with them in a more intensive and holistic way. So as I say, we opened two new applications on the 27th of November for these two programs, and we've just started to receive our first applications this week. There's been a steady flow of inquiries and applications, but nothing unmanageable, fingers crossed, at the moment. There is a stronger focus with these two programs on disadvantage, poverty, discrimination and disadvantage. And disadvantage doesn't necessarily have to mean economic disadvantage. It can mean rural isolation and lack of access to services as well. So just a run through the application process itself. We'd encourage you to contact us for any of our programs, but for these two programs, you need to contact us to get a link to an application form. We'll no longer send out an application form. You'll get a link to work on the cloud so that you can work on your application and then return to it at a later date with that work saved. We consider the applications as a team. You'll get a funding officer. The funding officer will come out and see you. It's likely to be me, but not necessarily. And we'll conduct a visit, and then we'll discuss all the applications going forward as a team. We make decisions every month on these applications, and the maximum you can expect to wait is around 12 weeks. But usually we can turn around applications a little bit quicker than that. So starting with Community Action. And this is the smaller of the two programs. It's for grants of 20,000 to 250,000 for up to 5 years funding. And it's for projects that bring communities together around activities that matter to them. It supports projects that are open, inclusive, and led by the people who benefit from the activities. So we don't expect tight criteria around who can participate in these projects. And we're broadening our definition of community to mean people who share an identity, interest, or experience. With our former program, Community Led, we were just working with geographical communities, and we expected organisations to work with the full demographic represented in that geographical area. But through this new program, groups can work with the community of people with specific needs or interests or identities. We're also expecting, because it's meant to be an open and inclusive program, that groups consider removing any barriers to participation. So we'd expect activities to be low cost or no cost or affordable by way of concessions to anyone who might want to participate. And we'd expect groups to consider any other barriers that people might experience. So this slide really runs through what previous applicants to our funding will be familiar as our three approaches, so formerly called the people-led approach, the strengths-based approach, and the connected approach. And it's basically saying that we want you to involve people in the design, delivery, and development of projects, be involved at all levels, kind of in delivery on the front line, and also at strategic level on your board usually, or through a strategic group that acts as an advisory body to the board. By strengths-based, we expect groups to use the assets that are available to them in their community. That could be land or buildings, or it could be the human resources available to you in the form of volunteers, and how you'll develop that volunteer workforce to help achieve your goals. And finally, we expect organisations to be connected to what else is going on in the community, so that services are joined up and can act in a kind of holistic way, to provide the best wraparound support for people who are participating in your project. We expect groups to achieve at least 2 of these 4 outcomes: so building positive relationships, supporting people's health or well-being, helping improve access and connection to nature, and making a positive difference to the environment. I wasn't on the team that designed this program, but you can see how these outcomes interweave quite nicely. So if you were a group of people working to improve the local natural environment, you can see how that might help improve relationships and people's health and well-being as well. So yeah, these are the parameters of the program. As I said, it was 20,000 to 250,000 for up to 5 years. The 5-year aim is it's now been built in to give groups that continuity and longevity of planning, and it gives a bit of job security for those employed staff. And yeah, we'll discuss kind of what a realistic amount would be to apply for when you get in touch with us. We're not expecting to make too many awards at 250,000, and if you've only held a small grant before, then probably 100,000 would be more realistic, but you can deliver that over a shorter time period. So there's a list of the kind of projects that we anticipate funding through this program, but that list isn't exhaustive. And if you have an idea that you think might fit the outcomes but doesn't appear on that list, then do get in touch with us. So Fairer Life Chances, the second of the funding programs that we introduced in November. So there's a focus on supporting people to access services that help them and navigate issues they are facing and live healthier lives. And it's for projects that support children, young people and families, or that help people be healthier or have better access to support. So again, this slide really summarises what we used to call our 3 approaches. We want you to involve those who are to benefit from the project in the design and delivery and the planning of projects, initially and on an ongoing basis. How you'll make use of the strengths in your community, and how you'll complement and make connections with other services that support the people that you're working with. So again, those are the 2 outcomes that projects need to meet in order to be successful to this program. And we have provided a list of priorities, just because we want to manage demand, and we know that we won't be able to fund all the good work that's going on in communities. So the team that designed the program have come up with this priority list. I would say though, if you think you've got a project that doesn't quite fit any of these categories, do get in touch with us. I think we'll apply these categories quite flexibly. So one group that occurred to me when I was looking at that list under socially excluded, the 4th one down there, and under the children, young people and families, I thought that, yeah, young people who've experienced the criminal justice system might be another group that would be included there quite feasibly. And yeah, the one around health and well-being, I don't think they've included addictions on that list, but addictions might easily be included there. So do speak to us if you think you've got a project that fits the Fairer Life Chances outcomes, but doesn't necessarily feature on this list of priorities. And again, the parameters for this program, it again starts at 20,000. Anything under 20,000 would expect you to apply to our small grants program or Awards for All. It's a lighter touch assessment process, so a lot less onerous on you to apply, but anything above 20,000, yeah, Fairer Life Chances is appropriate for you, and up to 500,000 for up to 5 years. Again, we don't expect to make many awards at 500,000, and this programme is designed to cover the whole of Scotland, so it would include Edinburgh and Glasgow with much higher densities of population. But it's I guess it's feasible that a borders-wide project delivered over 5 years might attract close to 500,000 if the application was strong enough. There'll be some negotiation at the inquiry stage as to what you apply for. We'll ask for a ballpark figure actually at the inquiry stage, just for our pipeline planning. That can change, obviously. And we'll fund new or existing projects. As before, if you've only delivered a small grant project for up to 2 years, then you could probably only expect to receive around 100,000 for your first larger grants application. But depending on the capacity of your group, more might be possible. So here's a list of what items we can fund through Fairer Life Chances and Community Action. Sorry, yeah, this applies to both programs. Neither of the programs are to be used primarily for capital costs, but you can include capital costs within an application. And as a rough guide, I would say around 1/5 of overall costs might be capital costs, if there's a case for that. We'll fund delivery of the project, and we'll fund some of the indirect project costs. So I think by that means overheads, basically. And we expect any overheads that you request to be proportionate to the activities that you're delivering on the front line. So if we're funding, say, half of your overall operation, then we'd expect to fund around 50% of organisational overheads. And here's a list of what we can't fund, and this hasn't really changed over the years. It's a lot of these costs have always been ineligible for us. A couple of small changes. We have, on occasions, through our cost of living response, allowed groups to hand out vouchers or even cash to individuals, but that is an ineligible cost for these two programs. Yeah, and important to note that you can't hold a community action and a Fairer Life Chances grant at the same time. So as an organisation, you have to think about which is the greater priority for you, and which programme you might deliver on the outcomes best on. It also applies to our old programs, Improving Lives, community-led and cost of living support funding. If you still hold one of those grants, you won't be able to apply, or at least put into operation a community action or Fairer Life Chances project. You might apply before your current project ends, but you wouldn't be able to start delivering on the new programs until that project had concluded. A note on match funding. Your application will be stronger if you attract match funding. It provides us with value for money. It also provides us with reassurance that you've got good relationships with stakeholders, and particularly if you're working in the field of health and social care, if you've got funding from a statutory partner, then that gives us great reassurance that you're trusted by those statutory bodies. But any match funding is welcome, and it also gives us assurance that you won't be reliant on our funding in future, and you can attract funding from a variety of sources. We can, though, fund projects in full. It's not a problem if there are reasons for that. Perhaps you're a relatively new organisation that hasn't got established relationships or an established track record. So just to recap on the similarities and differences of these two programs, they're both about obviously addressing disadvantage, and that's a priority for both programs. But community action is about bringing communities together around issues that matter to them to improve health and well-being. Fairer Life Chances is more about supporting people who are experiencing health inequality, or children and young people and families that are experiencing particular types of disadvantage. So we expect those projects to be better targeted towards individuals and their needs, and be clearer about how they'll address those specific challenges that those groups are facing. One other important point to note is that for community action, public bodies can't apply to that programme, but they can apply to Fairer Chances, and that's because we want community action to be more grassroots and community-led, and less influenced by targets set from above. And hot off the press, we are launching a new programme on the 29th of January to complement these programmes, strengthening organisations. It's a pilot we're running for the UK and Scotland, and it uses our Awards for All small grants application process. So it's less onerous on groups to apply. And groups will be able to apply for up to 50,000 through this programme, and it's around building the capacity of organisations. It's intended to support innovation, growth, and capacity for growth. And I'm thinking that this would be ideal for a group that's perhaps delivering a service and they're inundated with demand, and they're trying to cope with that demand. They haven't got the resources to sit back and take a more strategic approach. So this funding is there to increase the capacity of groups so that they can do that. But full details aren't yet available. Do look out for the launch on the 29th, or speak to me after the 29th when I'll have more information myself. Like I say, it's still in the final stages of development, and we won't be launching on the same scale as we did with the other programs, because we are going to exercise a bit of caution with this one, because it's a pilot and we're not sure what demand's going to be like yet. So just a word on the other programs that we currently have available. Young Start is delivered from dormant bank account funding that we get from the Scottish Government. It's for 8 to 24-year-olds, and there are 3 outcomes for that programme: improved health and well-being, young people being more connected with their community, usually through volunteering in the community, and young people have increased skills and opportunities. That's the employability outcome, and it's currently the only funding program we have available for employability per se. So if that's the area you work in, this would still be the program for you. That's for grants for 20,000 to 100,000 across 1 to 3 years. And Awards for All, most of you I think will be familiar with, hopefully. That's continuing, and that's currently has 4 outcomes: improving places and spaces that matter to people, bringing people together within and across communities, tackling issues early so people can reach their full potential, and supporting people experiencing challenges as a result of the cost of living crisis. That's for 300 to 20,000 across 1 to 2 years. We increased that from 10 to 20,000 about a year ago, and extended the period that you might deliver the grant, the project across, from 1 to 2 years. And this is a very useful slide. It provides 5 links to 5 resources that we have online. The new programs overview, you'll find that easily enough. It's on our website. But the other 4 resources are in blog form, and they're not quite as easy to find online. So I would recommend you get a copy of these slides, and you'll have all the links to all these resources in one place. And finally, my contact details. As I say, if you do have a project idea, please get in touch with us, and I would be your appropriate contact in the first instance, and I'll discuss what the most appropriate avenue for funding will be. And that concludes the slideshow. So I would welcome any questions.
Thanks, Neil. Just to interject there, I'm going to stop recording now so that we can ask questions freely if you so wish.